Niight Wind is a VITA certified love and relationship coach who has worked with men and women from all over the world to help them find true love faster. Finding love is not for a lucky few, and dating is not a one size fits all. Niight helps her clients break through limiting beliefs and date in a way that feels right for them. Hello, everybody. I'm so pleased to have here with me for another episode of the Healer Hub podcast, Niight. I'm so glad to have you here with me today, Niight. And we're gonna be diving into conscious dating for both men and women. Niight will share with us the secrets around dating in your 30s and how to consciously date after having been through a divorce. How are you, Niight?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited to be here.
So I'm very curious about your story. How did you come to doing what you are doing, and how did you come to conscious dating?
So I kind of found my coaching program just towards the end of a really long relationship. And I actually thought that I was going to be a relationship coach. But then I got into kind of like the pre-coaching and working with some people, and I actually found out that there was like so much emotion. People working in relationship coaching, like people can get defensive, and obviously it's a very important thing. And that was just like a lot of energy for me. And so I kind of went inside and meditated on what might be a better fit. And I love getting to the root of things. And so dating would be more of like that root of relationship. So whether it's a relationship with yourself or relationship with other people, and getting finding that self-love, and then going out and being able to find an amazing person who just is perfect for you, like, because it's all about helping people date in a way that they want to, not this very specific rigid way that I see a lot of people talking about. And so I was just like, let's get to the root of it. Dating. I tried coaching people with the dating, and I love it. I love it so much. So yeah.
That's amazing. It seems that you are really passionate about what you are doing, and I'm so psyched to see that you are doing something that you are enjoying so much. And I imagine that your clients are really picking up on the vibes too.
Definitely. Yeah.
So, how did you start? What did you do before coaching? Do you have any background in anything else, or was it just a deep dive in the program? So we met through the VITA coaching program.
So I was an Ayurveda practitioner for 13 years and a yoga teacher. And other than that, I worked in like greenhouses. But yeah, so I had like more of a holistic background. And then I found the VITA program, and like the practices are just so potent. Like as soon as I found it, I was like, well, I'm definitely doing something with this. And then like I said, and then I became a dating coach. So
Yeah. What are the specificities of conscious dating from a gender perspective? Do you see some similarities and some things that are specifically for women and specifically for men? And are there any tools in helping different people, non-binary people also, and everybody on the spectrum in terms of conscious dating?
yeah, so I'm a big believer in common humanity, which means that basically deep down, we all have the same wants and needs. And I definitely see that. Like, I think just a huge thing, whether people are conscious or not conscious of it, is that like they want to be seen, they want to be heard. And even so, like men, women, anybody that I work with, one of the biggest things that I notice is, so they might have a little bit of a wall at first, but once they have this container and they really feel safe, it it is amazing to see the warmth and the softness that come out of everyone. So like I honestly thought when I started working with men, I wasn't sure. I was like, is this going to be so like too holistic-y for them? Like, will they actually? But it is just amazing. Like as soon as they feel that safe space, totally different person. Um, just like their true heart, like what they want, and everybody, yeah, it's just like once they feel that safe space, they just want love. They want their to find someone who cares about them. They care that they care about, like that they can love and be loved. So it's like, yeah, there's definitely at the root, everybody wants that. Like whether it takes a minute to get like break down the guard, but it's like, yeah. And yeah, and I can attest from that just for anyone who's wondering, like, are there any good people left? There are definitely good people left. You just hear about the drama because drama sells, but yeah, there are still amazing people out there. And then yeah, I would say in the differences, it tends to be more of just the limiting beliefs or the blocks. So like women can be more blocked around getting cheated on or their age, or like worried about like the fact that they have children. But it's like that's just all limiting beliefs because we gotta just remember like our brain is telling us one thing. Our brain wants us to be safe. And so that is helping you be safe from heartbreak again, but it's not necessarily true because there are those good people. And then with men, they can be blocked in, they get worried about the friend zone. They get worried that they're not tall enough. They get worried that if they share that they need a little bit more space, because I've worked with people who are in like a little bit of a relationship, like they're kind of still dating, but like I think they get scared to tell because they find this amazing person and they get scared to be able to safely tell them that like, oh, they do still want to hang out with their friends, or like that they can't spend every minute of the day. Like they love this person, but they don't want to spend every minute. So they kind of need more of like know that they can still have that separate piece, but also be in partnership. Yeah, so it's like the limiting beliefs tend to be different, but everybody at the core wants the same thing. So, yeah.
That's really beautiful. I'm thinking that maybe you could also offer a sort of matchmaking program because I think that would be so needed for everybody out there who thinks that they can't find any. There are no good men left.
Yeah, no, I've thought about that, but I work with people from they're so spread out. But like, yeah, I mean, like those good men exist everywhere. And it's I've heard people say like some people are very into mindset, some people don't believe it. But if you believe that there are no good men, you're only going to see the not good men. But if you believe that there are good men and you're looking for those qualities, you will find the men with those qualities. So, and the same for men looking for women and non-binary. It's like your brain always wants to make you right. And so if you are looking for the good qualities, you will see them.
Yeah. So this is an example of what limiting beliefs look like in a manifested way in the reality. How do you help people overcome the limiting beliefs that they hold so that they can actually have a fulfilling dating experience?
Yeah. So I kind of said the one. So one is like really challenging yourself. Is that true? The next thing would be looking for times that wasn't true. So like if someone was like, oh, I never get hit on because I have kids. And then it's like, if you take a deep breath, was there ever a time that you had your kids and you were out that a guy smiled at you? That a guy like was nice to you, that like actually came and talked to you? Was there like ever a time. And because we tend, like, if she was focused on someone who is like not being nice, but there's this guy over here, like, like blushing because he thinks she's so beautiful, but she wasn't paying attention to him. So it's kind of like, can your mind ever? And you start to find those pieces. And then like you can, like, I mean, also if we stay with that, like someone with kids, maybe you're just not in the right situations. So like maybe you need to be in situations more where like men with kids who like are open to kids, or even like if you're online dating, there are tons of guys who are like open to kids, want more kids, like it's there. They're there. You're just not seeing them. So yeah.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing you saying is that we tend to have certain beliefs about the reality, and then the brain is looking for coherence. So it will kind of direct us in confirming what we already believe about the world. And how you're helping your client is to challenge those beliefs and to find expanders. So expanders would be confirmations that what they are looking for does exist in the world and is available. It's just a matter of choosing the perspective and shifting the angle.
Definitely. And yeah, so and yeah, and then I would say then the next thing would be, do you see a problem with you having a kid? And it's like, can you love yourself and love the fact that you have kids, and believe that, like, do you want to date right now even though you have kids? Like, because it's like an internal work and external work. Like, yeah, just like, yeah, it's the internal and external. And I also think and then like if we're just going to go through all of it, and then like the third thing would be when you're out, and so maybe there is this guy who's interested and you have your kid, are you saying hi, or are you like grabbing your coffee and running away? So it's like there's so many pieces down the line of like, where is this actually stemming from, and like working through those things. We have lots of tools that go through from like just questions to guided meditations, all of that. So yeah, there's just lots of different pieces and lots of different things that you can work through.
So I imagine that for many people who would like to put themselves out there on the dating market again, there is also a lot of resistance, because you mentioned it, like everybody else, we've been through heartbreak, and it's sometimes very difficult to start dating again. Maybe some of us think that we have things that are keeping us from having a beautiful experience, such as being divorced or having children or being older than we would have been 5 years ago when we were on the dating market before. So I'm wondering, how are you supporting people to move past the resistance that they would have, and to acknowledge that, yes, it can be painful to put yourself out there, and of course there will be rejection, of course there will be a lot of undesirable and challenging moments, and still we all crave that affection and that connection. So how are you helping them shift from the moment where they have the initial idea of going back to dating, and then the resistance that could come up?
Definitely. Well, for one, it's hard to specifically say, because I work with people to date the way they want to date. So it's like, if they are healing from heartbreak, it could just take some time of like pampering themselves, finding that love within themselves again, building that strength. I think, as well as like seeing that fear. And like, again, like we said before, it's like, is that true, or is that trying to protect you? Do you feel like enough time has passed? I think a huge one is forgiving yourself. And so it doesn't mean that whatever they did, like if something bad happened, that's on the other person and they shouldn't have done that. But I think forgiving yourself for like for making that choice. Like at the time, it seemed like a great choice getting into this partnership, forgiving yourself for maybe staying too long, forgiving yourself for just like not uh, really asking or receiving that love that you need, or like finding in like, when I say somewhere else, I mean like as in maybe like therapy or friends or coaching. So like, yeah, forgiving yourself for those things. It doesn't make whatever happened before okay, whatever they did, but truly forgiving yourself, knowing that you now have the power to next time, since you're so conscious of what you don't want, you now have the ability to choose what you do want. And you have steps to slowly work into that. So you can practice, whether that's just like you start saying hi to people, whether you start going to like bigger group things, like, you know, like rock climbing or going to like book clubs. You can even start with more of a friendship relationship if you're really, if you kind of lost yourself, you can focus more on those group things that you like to do, and just even just building friendships and support systems. And then from there, moving into, yeah, just like saying hi to someone that you might be interested in, or you can even practice. I like, so for online dating, I think not only is it great for showing how many people exist out there, but for also being like, you can say no. So like you actually look through the list of like things and being aware, like are you still being drawn towards someone that doesn't match what you want, or are you actually saying yes to people who fit things that you do want? And you, because you can like, not that everybody's telling the truth, but you can actually look at their profile and see, like if they're like, I don't want kids and like up for a fun time, it's like, is that really what you wanted? Or are you going to go for like this like sweeter family guy, wants kids, wants more kids, if that's like what you want type of thing? So you can visually see like, who are you trying to pick? You know what I mean?
Mm. Yeah, and I think it's a beautiful way of, when you are working with the codes, also recognizing or starting to recognize the patterns. So there is this thing of so many women finding a man and making them a project, and the belief that even if he doesn't want to have children, he's gonna meet me, and for me they will change their mind. And of course I can create satire now about this, but of course I've been there just like everybody else. And I think a beautiful step into maturing is recognizing that people only change because they want to change, and it has nothing to do with how magnificent you are, but it's a for sure losing game if you are placing your identity and giving your power to the story that somebody's gonna change for you. And that's also not very fair to the other person.
Oh, definitely. No, that's a great point. Yeah, because they say in the first date to the first 3 weeks, someone will, they'll tell you who they are. And that's who they are. They're not going to change. We just make up stories sometimes that yeah. But they tell you if you listen. So.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of accepting and believing, and there are so many factors that are accumulated there. I remember back from my dating days and also working with clients, when you have a scarcity mentality, then you are like, oh, this person is kind of like 20% of what I'm expecting. So the other 80%, I'm going to pretzel myself. I'm going to find a way to emotionally manipulate them into becoming closer to the person that I'm dreaming of. And again, it's it's not very respectful. And it's coming from that mentality of scarcity and fear in a certain way that I guess everybody has been through that moment of questioning whether we are going to die alone, and is there really anybody else that could complete us. And maybe also the ideal of being 100% compatible with somebody and finding somebody who 100% responds to our list of wishes and desires in a partner and in a partnership. Maybe you'd like to speak to that this is something that I work with a lot of highly intelligent, very self-aware women who did a lot of self-work, and the question that constantly arises is, are my standards too high, or am I really entitled to having my desires, and I just need to be very clear about that, and to also stand in my no, knowing that the possibility of meeting that person tomorrow might decrease because maybe the expectations and the standards are higher. So you either need to accept that it may take a little bit of time. And what was really beautiful, I really want us to dive deep into this. I just remembered when Leila had the conscious uncoupling with Andrew, and I felt that a lot of people were exposed to her messaging and to the way that she chose, maybe Andrew also, I don't know that side of the story, but we know her side of the story. And it was just so empowering because it felt that she spoke for so many people and for so many women who would rather die trying to find that person than settle for somebody, knowing that it comes with just that knowing, that this is not really truly your person, and kind of trying to compensate for that. And it doesn't really work when you have the awareness and you have the inner feeling that that's not your thing.
Yeah, no. Wow, so that was a lot. No, 100%. Just keep me on track if I haven't answered everything. But one, I'll kind of go backwards a little bit. So with Layla's, I kind of feel, and I don't know, that maybe like at the time, like originally I think she compared him to like gold medals and silver medals. And so maybe at the time he was a gold medal, and then as they grew, their relationship was more silver medal and she wanted a gold medal again. And so it's like, we have to remember that people do grow, people do change. So free will, we do the best we can with where we're at and like what we think we want. I mean, everybody can grow and change and just have different thoughts and opinions, but then go to more of that worthiness and the scarcity of, you were saying like, am I shooting too high with what I want on my list? So I think it is really important at least to be aware of what you want. Like, even if it's this huge list and like, even if it's things that you feel are unattainable, I think at least knowing that and being aware of that is like really good. So like, you can try to either get that. So like, say you're like, I want someone who looks like Brad Pitt, who's like got all this money, all this stuff. Like, okay, like that could take a lot longer. And like, and especially if you want chemistry with that, maybe like that might involve moving, that might involve so many things and just like time. But we could also look to break it down. So like, you want someone who looks like Brad Pitt. Why do you want someone who looks like Brad Pitt? Like, does that make you feel of a higher status? Does that make you feel wanted? Like, there are these lower things that if you just want to feel really wanted by someone who's handsome, you could find that with somebody that does not look like Brad Pitt necessarily. But then there's also, I think when you're talking about limiting the list, that's more of worthiness. So like, are you settling because you think someone won't like someone who you want won't love you for who you are? Like that's more dangerous because that's kind of like, I don't feel like happiness comes from that because that's a settling. And I feel like there's a difference between feeling safe with someone versus being with someone because they're like a safety, where they're like, you feel like they won't hurt you or they won't cheat on you. And unfortunately, that's actually usually the opposite, because when you find a good person, they're not going to cheat on you. But then this safety person like they're usually the cheaters because like they know you have this low confidence. So it's like when you rise and feel your worth and you're with someone who you feel safe with and good with and you have that chemistry, that's just a good relationship. So it's this very disconnect between the two. But if we go to the list again, I think there's a difference between shooting too high and too narrow. So, like, an example I have is I worked with a woman who had a child with special needs. And so, one of her things on the list was I want a guy who knows how to work with children with special needs. And I said, okay, well, we can do that. That's going to like lessen, like narrow down your list. Or if it feels good, you could choose someone who wants to learn how to work with children with special needs and loves you and is like so wrapped up in your child and like totally sees you as a full package and loves you for who you are. And he's like, yeah, I totally want to learn how to do this. And that's going to be like a whole lot more people. So does that make sense? Like, so yeah, so it's kind of like we have to look at the list of like our non-negotiables, making sure there's like a wide enough cast in what you're looking for. And I still just believe if you do really want something, you can find that like seemingly unattainable list. It's just going to take longer, probably. You'll have to do more to find that person. And it might not be as great as you think it's going to be. So if I missed something, let me know. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the distinction that you made between settling for somebody who might feel safe, but it's more a strategy of avoiding pain and getting hurt, and settling with somebody who is actually safe and feels safe to your nervous system. And it is beautiful because I can see it. I can see it in my life and in my client's life also, that the universe does challenge strategies just as a beautiful loving way of inviting us into growth and seeing where we are actually lowering ourselves energetically. And I'm wondering what role do you feel that energetics play in the conscious dating dynamics, and if you see maybe a pattern or a sort of, I'm thinking about certain people who don't seem to have done a lot of work. For example, like we privilege and we put our beautiful golden pin. I did so much work and I reparented my inner child and all that. And then there are people who don't seem to have been through a lot of self-development processes, but somehow they find a beautiful partner and they create a beautiful, loving container.
Yes, I mean, like, so different people have different amounts of trauma. Different people are looking for different things. Like, I mean, if someone is just looking for a nice person who wants to have a family, like that's pretty easy to find. And like if you have communication, that's probably going to work out. It just depends on like, yeah, what you've been through, what you've seen, what type of relationship you're actually looking for. And I mean, just in the end too, I think being able to communicate and feeling safe in communicating is going to be like huge. So like maybe you want someone who's going to travel a lot. You want someone who's nice, who there's chemistry. Like that's going to be pretty easy as long as you guys kind of want that same end goal and are communicating well. People also talk about fighting styles. So if you are able to, when you argue in the same way and you resolve conflict in the same way. That's also huge in it. I think like in that, like the big problem is like if somebody doesn't want to talk and then somebody does want to talk and then you can never resolve, that's obviously going to cause problems. But yeah, just knowing who you want, communication is the end goal the same, and obviously chemistry. And chemistry, I think people get confused, does not mean that they have to quote unquote be a super hot person. You just have to have that chemistry together of like attractive, like feeling attracted to each other. And I think that's another thing. I I feel so many people, not necessarily the people that I'm working with, but just people that I've talked with in workshops, they think that the Brad Pitt is what chemistry means. And it's not. Like I think people don't give a chance to so many people just because they're not magazine pretty. And it's like they just have to be amazing to you. They don't have to be, yeah, magazine pretty. And I'm not saying go ugly. I have an artist background as well, and I don't feel like there are actually that many ugly people. We're all just different, and there's just like this huge higher standard in Hollywood. But yeah, like I think just like opening up what could be chemistry to you. And especially if you are stuck in a very specific type of person, like just go talk to some other people or go check out some other things. I think they might be really surprised if you listen to more of like your gut and how you feel versus someone being beautiful, because beauty creates dopamine within us. So you might be getting like looking at beauty, even a person, a painting creates dopamine, and you might just be feeling a dopamine rush versus chemistry, which is why things can fizzle out.
Mm. Yeah, it's so interesting because apparently the retina gets used to a new and beautiful face within 6 to 9 seconds, I think. So it's really interesting that you have as a coach this experience. Maybe it's because I work with people on the wish list and the supravision, which is we've got a layer where they say how somebody should look and what they're doing for a living and hobbies and all that. And then we go into exactly what you're mentioning, which is the supra level or the sub level, which is what for do you need them to enjoy bungee jumping, for example, right? And then we understand the core needs, the basic needs. I like making this discrepancy between chemistry and compatibility, because I think that a lot of us have been sold, depending on which era we grew up in. I grew up in the 90s, so I grew up with the Disney movies, with the rom-coms, with Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks. So kind of my brain is wired for that. And I needed to dismantle for myself and then to also support my clients with dismantling this grand gesture type of a relationship. It's so hard. It's still so hard for me. And then the Prince Charming aspect, right? Where somebody has to be visually attractive, pleasing, and then understanding that you can pheromonally have a reaction to people, but that is rarely a sign that they are actually compatible long term, depending on, of course, what the vision is. Maybe some people are just out there to explore and to meet a lot of people. But if you are looking for a long term partner, then chemistry alone is not really enough. And you do need to have that compatibility to be able to dive deep with somebody and to build something sustainable.
Yeah. Yeah, I am also grew up in the 90s. So I know what you're talking about. I actually just came up with this quote like the other day because I was thinking about this, is that marriage is a landmark. It is not end game. So like so many people, like they just haven't thought past the marriage. And you don't have to get married. People don't have to get married if you can just have a long-term relationship. But it's like, if you want it to be successful past marriage, like, what do you want those qualities of a partner, like forever? Like, what are those qualities that are going to like last and last and last and last? Like, if it's a sense of humor, just having a similar interest. Like, I mean, it could be anything because it's based on whoever you are. But yeah, people think of that very finite. I think that's also why people don't get past looks, is because in high school, it's not finite. It's just like dating the cutest person you can date is kind of like the thing. But it's like, no, now we're like the long game. Like if which who I work with is people trying to find one person for long term. And so it's like, are you thinking about that as you're dating? Because dating is the root of it. Also in dating, like, you can solve so many of those marital issues if you're already thinking about that while you're dating. And that doesn't mean that you have to have like, you're not like interviewing people, but it's like when you're interacting, like, is there, oh my goodness, I can't think of the word. Like the banter. Is there like good banter, or like maybe you like really intelligent people? Like, are you guys having like these stimulating conversations like off the bat? So it's just kind of like, yeah, knowing that, can you see that within the first date to the first 3 weeks? Because that's going to be the rest of your life. So
Yeah. And it's really beautiful. Of course, this is a brutal heteronormative stereotype. A lot of cisgender women filter men based on looks. And men do it too because they are visual. But another concern that I hear a lot from men is she smart? Because the question, and it was so interesting to explore that. I don't want my children to be stupid. And it's very interesting because women want their children to be attractive and men want their children to be smart, because women gain a lot in life through their looks, and by being, or have seen a lot of people around them gaining a lot primarily through their looks. And they have been we've been brought up with the idea that we need to be pretty and pleasant, and we always get, or most of the time we get compliments based on our looks. And men are brought up with the idea that they need to succeed and be smart, and then it's getting transferred into what they are looking for and what they are optimizing for in a partner. Not to say that men would settle for somebody who's not attractive, but it was just really powerful to have this conversation mostly with men. It was so unexpected in a certain way when it started to download for me in different sessions, because I always believed, right, like men are visual, and they would be attracted to attractive women, and they would want an attractive partner, and that is true, but also the the smartness aspect.
interesting. Yeah, I don't know. From what I've seen, I don't know if quite the same. I feel like a lot of people want someone similar to them. So like fairly similar age, at least one similar activity. A lot of people that's eating good food, and there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, just similar, someone that they can have like a good conversation with. Yeah, just a lot of similar, like some men still, they do want like that attractive younger woman, but yeah, someone similar. So at their smartness level, their intelligence level, and then women, I have found there's either women who are kind of like doing their own thing and they're like strong and they just want a man who's going to like help with the family, but then there's also women who they want to feel supported. So it doesn't even have to be it's like it could be monetarily supported, like, or he's got muscles supported, or just like someone who's respecting like what they want to do with their life. Yeah, I mean, there's just I think a lot of people are just looking for a lot of different things. And honestly, I think overall, a lot of guys just want someone who's nice. I think someone who's, yeah, they just want to feel like, I mean, and I know that sounds kind of cliche because women are like supposed to be nice or whatever, but I think they just nice as in, um, like they're not gonna get yelled at for doing something wrong, or like she just like is happy for something that they've done. Just I think more supportive, really. I think people just want someone who's gonna be supportive of who they are, which it sounds so simple, but it is so simple. Like, I mean, like how about you? Don't you want someone who's just going to be like, "Hey, you're doing such a great job," or "I'm just so happy to see you." Like, yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, no, it's true. I think that it's also we are just bashing stereotypes, which is I hope that the people are gonna listen to this and they are also gonna have a good laugh about it. It's interesting because I think that being in our 30s, it's a very different game, right, than in my 20s, for example. So and I can see it also with the people. I'm mostly working with people in their 30s, 40s, so they have a different outlook on life, and they prioritize different things. And I think that once you did a bit of integrative work and you're a bit more mature, you are looking for somebody who respects you and who looks up to you and who inspires you to be a better person, but not in a controlling, manipulative, putting you down kind of a way. And I remember from my 20s journey, because it was still mommy, daddy, and of course there are still aspects of mommy, daddy issues being integrated through relationships, but primordially it felt so familiar, for example, to be around people who would be much more successful than me, and for the relationship to have a sort of layer of not enoughness and always having to strive and do better so that I am worthy of their attention, affection, dissimulated or illusionary love, because it wasn't true love, right? So I think that it depends a lot on where you are in your life, because we tend to go for the things that are familiar sometimes, and something that I see people struggling with is receiving love, even if I think that consciously we all say that we would love for somebody to accept us and to love us for who we are now at this moment, and then to look together towards a future where we are both growing and evolving together and supporting each other on this growth path. Sometimes we are still attracting from the space of what is not healed, and we meet people who are challenging those wounded aspects, again, because the universe loves us and just wants to bring a bit more awareness to those spaces.
Yeah. Yeah. So being attracted to the familiar, which is often learned in childhood, like they say that you're kind of like either dating your mother or your father is kind of like a thing. So like, however they acted, you look towards a person who will act that way. One of the first things is just being clear. So if you're like, oh, I'm just like always attracted to grumpy people, and you don't want to be attracted to grumpy people, then the first step would just be like, you could say like, as soon as I see that, I just say, bye, like that's not for me. But if to internally do that work, maybe some inner child work where you would be saying like, I'm an adult now. Like I see that I had to be okay with that because that was my caregiver. But like now I'm an adult and my inner child, you can just have fun. And now I'm the adult in charge, and I'm looking for someone who's like kind and respects me and doesn't like get irritated when I play music or something. I'm just picking out thin air. And so it's like, so you can consciously be aware, then do the inner child work, be aware of the good qualities that you're looking for. And it might be a little uncomfortable at first because you're like, oh, this person is just nice, and like this whole trend of the ick, and you're like, ugh, someone nice, and it's like, no, like let's see how that goes. Or like, maybe you don't want someone who's like super kind. You want someone who is a little reserved but loves you, like, because there's like a difference. You can still choose whoever you want. But yeah, just kind of seeing what comes up and doing the work on your own, as well as being aware and going out and trying new things.
Yeah. And I think polarity is really, really interesting and important in relationships. And I'll make a little note because I want to. So I don't particularly use the word nice anymore, thanks to TL Swan. I listened to a short episode. I don't know if you've heard her. Actually, a lot of
I've heard of it.
about this, right? The difference between nice and kind. So a lot of us have the strategy of being the nice person, and the nice person is not truly nice. It's just somebody who has evolved to pick up and to read people and energies and to deliver in a manipulative and covert way on what they believe that the other person is expecting. And again, that's not something that is desirable long term, because nobody can actually keep up the act, and also because it's not real. But a kind person is somebody who prioritizes truth and honesty, and is able to communicate about really challenging subjects, which I like that, because I think that the kind of people that I work with, they're driven by another need for honesty and authenticity, even if it's very, very painful, to have the conversations around, I love you and we are in a committed monogamous relationship, and I still see people around me that I find attractive, and that's normal. I will not act on that. I will not offer my energy outside of our relationship. We decided and we articulated the rules for our relationships and the guidelines, but just to be honest about, the truth of human nature in a certain way. And it's such a breath of fresh air when you can have these conversations with your person. I felt that it leads to more trust, even if in the moment is really, really excruciatingly painful.
Yeah, definitely. Well, one, I think I use those words interchangeably, and I tend to use the word safe, like a safe, which also has its connotations, like feeling safe in speaking those words, and that's actually, the nice and kind is a practice from the Tao, so that's very old, and I do believe that to be very true. Yeah, but yeah, I think cultivating a sense of safety is very important, and being kind. Yeah, because I think when you're saying the truth, you're still not trying to be mean. When you're saying the truth, you're still coming from that place of true kindness. Yeah, yeah, and vocabulary is very important as well. Yeah, just in speaking in words that people understand. And I do think safety is probably the key to most things. Yeah, I'm trying to think of what I said before, what I was saying nice. I guess I do mean kind and caring was what I was saying, because I could see how if someone was more like love bombing, that would not be what you're looking for.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It would be nice, though. It would be not a nice thing, but it wouldn't be the kind thing.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, definitely kindness and caring and safety. All those words are definitely a good words for a healthy relationship.
Yeah. And sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I really appreciate when people get the distinction, and it can be that this is how I connotate the word nice, but I think that everybody has been in this situation where they're around people where you feel that they are not really honestly welcoming from the heart, and you feel that there is some, how to say, the intention is to be liked. And because the intention is to be liked, they would do, say, act in whatever way possible, even if that's not the truth of who they are, to be liked, to be liked. And yeah. And it's beautiful to have that empathy for people, because we all survived like this. We all learned the strategy of playing nice and delivering on the expectations so that we can be accepted and have some relationships with the other people. But then I feel that the more people are growing out of it, the more is kind of the expectation for the people who have yet to grow out of it to join that side, because it just builds much safer relationships when you feel that you can trust people for who they are and not for who they pretend to be.
Definitely. Yeah. Being authentic is super important. And like, I try to get people, I'm like, from day one, just like be yourself, because they're going to figure out who you are eventually. And like, so it's like, just start out, and it's better to know if they're not into you, they're not into you, but just be yourself. So,
Yeah.
but there will be people who like who you are. So.
Yeah. I think it's also, we are brought up with this idea that rejection is a bad thing, that relationships that don't last forever are a bad thing, and we should try to push for everybody to like us, for everybody to choose us, for our relationship to last a lifelong. And I think that we are seeing that that's just not the paradigm that is available, that is in resonance with our our society today. Not that marriage or long-lasting relationship are a negative thing. It's just that people seem to be more drawn to authentic relationships than pretending, so that they can mark 5 years anniversaries or 10 years anniversaries. And that's the beautiful thing about coaching. And I'm curious about how you are coaching people after divorce. How is that process for your clients?
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things that comes up is that, so even though things went bad or whatever happened, that they want to jump in at that place of like comfort, and you can't just like jump into that, because this is a whole new person. You have to learn what they like and don't like, and like maybe there's especially that process of like rediscovering who you are, because who knows however long that relationship was, and who you started off as, and who you are now, and who you want to be, and at the essence. So those are two kind of really big things that you're working through, because I think there a lot of people, they're not like, probably, I shouldn't say everyone, but like a lot of people knew the relationship was ending. And so they kind of were like over the person, but not necessarily over the relationship. And I think it's a tricky place, because that comfort, that safety, even if it went bad at the end, there was still a comfort in having someone, or who that relationship was at some point. And so it's all about coming back to like, you are solid in who you are. You love yourself. You figure out, come back to what you like, figure out what you want, and then proceed into finding someone and having that adventure, meeting that person and exploring that person. But and yes, you can do those things at the same time if you want. Like, you can go on whatever timeline, you can find yourself, or you're finding them, and just exploring, because it's however you want to do it. But yeah, I would say those are the two biggest things, is like wanting to jump into that comfort again, and then also needing to find yourself and what you're actually looking for.
So what do you feel that the grief process, or how important do you feel that grief at the end of a relationship, or when we lose somebody, or when we I think divorce is not really seen, and I think that the pain of divorce is not really acknowledged in our societies. It feels that it's somehow invisible, and a lot of people treat it like, oh, it's just another relationship ending, and people don't realize it's extremely, extremely painful and challenging.
Yeah, no. Well, the importance of grief is huge. I mean, obviously, everyone should grieve as long as they need to grieve. Some people, like I was gonna say, so some people kind of grieve at the end, like they're the one who's making the choice, and they're already kind of like letting go. And then like some people, it has surprised them, they're not the one who wants to end it, and so like then it will be a different timeline, because if you're just starting grieving at the divorce process versus someone who is kind of like emotionally checking out of the relationship earlier, so that will be different, but the grief is still important, and people grieve in different ways. I mean, there's obviously all the stages, but like some people are going to be just angry, and like maybe you go somewhere, whether it's like you are like hitting golf balls and just like rage, or there's like places you can actually smash plates, and just making sure you're getting all of that out. Some people are going to be sad, and you can journal or like go talk to a professional, or talking to your friends. It's always good to keep your friends in the loop, but remember that your friends are your friends and they're not a dumping ground. So like, just make sure you're not overdoing that, because there are other ways to release. And if you have the communication skills at that point, or that you learn them, of just letting people know what you need, letting yourself know what you need. So maybe you just need to start sleeping more. So that's how some people grieve. Some people have anger. Some people buy a car. Some people like it's whatever you need to do. And the more that you can get in tune with that, as well as doing the work of like is it an inner child or teen that feels abandoned? Is it are you just sad that do you feel the truth, that how you feel is that you don't feel good enough? You thought maybe they left you because you weren't good enough. So maybe it's working on building that back up, because you are 100% good enough. Like who you are, it just something changed, or like it could have had nothing to do with the other person. Like maybe they wanted to move and do work somewhere else, and you really didn't want to move with them. Or maybe they wanted, like, this is a big one that probably should have been looked at before, but like maybe they really wanted kids and you didn't want kids, and you both thought that the other would change their mind. So it's like there's so many reasons, and just take a look at what's really going on inside, and like take the time that you need. Yeah, kind of went off on that. Is that answered? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's a complex subject, I think, and you can't really. I think that we can't really discuss and cover all the different flavors of what people are going through at the end of a relationship, or just in their experience of having a relationship, or having multiple relationships and dating and so on. So yeah, thank you so much, Night. This was really, really beautiful. I'm wondering if you have that practice that you would have like to do at the end. Do you have it as a place where people can download it?
A practice for what?
So you were mentioning that you could lead us through a practice of finding or identifying the aspects that you are looking for in a partner. So I'm wondering if you have that pre-recorded, or you want to do it now, and because like we are.
Oh well, I do that as a workshop, but I am working on making it a video resource. So that's
yeah.
Would you just like a little bit of like a grounding and connecting to start that practice? Or
I was wondering if you have it already, so then we could just link it to the episode. So then I can just mention it. people can, but it's not available.
No, not at this point, but I am making that.
Yeah.
So, because usually I just do it as a live workshop. But yeah.
It's nice. Okay, so I'm just gonna cut this part and I'm just gonna thank you and then okay. So thank you so much, Niight. This was really, really beautiful. I'm wondering where people could find you online.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, you can find me at nightwindcoaching.com, and Night is spelled with 2 I's, so NIIGHT, windcoaching at nightwindcoaching.com, or you can email me at nightwindcoaching@gmail.com.
And on Instagram also, and the links are gonna be in the notes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Night Wind Coaching as well on Instagram. Yeah.
Okay. Super. Thank you so much. And thank you everybody for tuning in.
The best way to support the Healer Hub podcast is to review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and share it with your people. Thank you so much. Deeply grateful for your support.